There is a blind spot. We have a blind spot in our eye, right? Everybody has a blind spot. You look here, and mine is over there somewhere, and your eye fills it in. You can't see it. If I stare at this brick wall, I would never be able to discover my blind spot because your brain fills in that area that blanks out. Your brain just, it matches the rest. It's kind of like Photoshop. Anyone work with Photoshop? You know how you can take a piece of a picture and just kind of move it over there, and it blends in with the surroundings, and you never know that branch was there, or that fence post, or whatever. Your eye does the same thing. In the blind spot, it fills in that piece. Well, that's what's happening, I think, with a lot of people. They have a blind spot. They refuse to believe. They will not even allow for the possibility that the Bible could be true, so they can't see it. It's the blind spot, and they fill it in with things that match their worldview. They fill it in with those things. All right, go on. Okay, there has never been one conclusive fact that has shown the Bible to be in error. And I'm talking about a 7-day week. I'm talking about a, basically, roughly a 6,000-year-old earth. There has never been one conclusive fact to show that that's not true. Go ahead. Interpretations of fact are not fact. Go ahead. Fact. There are geological layers in the Earth's crust. How many agree with that? That's a fact, right? We can see the layers in the Earth's crust. We can see the different layers. Go ahead. Interpretation. It took millions of years to lay down these layers, or billions of years, I could have put. That's an interpretation of the fact. The fact is, the layers are there. There's no question about it. We can see them, right? You can see the layers. You can go to the Grand Canyon and boom, there's the red cliffs, there's the, the lava flows, this, that, and the other. Go ahead. Here's an alternate interpretation. A global flood created these layers in a few months. How many would agree that that is a valid interpretation? How many think that a global flood could lay down layers of rock? It's possible, isn't it? If you allow the possibility, good. That's all it takes. Is for you to say, okay, I'll allow the possibility. I'm going to check it out, make sure it's true. But I will allow the fact that there could have been a global flood. Now let's see if the evidence matches up with that. That's all it takes. You do that, and I'll make a believer out of you. I won't. The evidence will. Okay? If you refuse to believe that it's a possibility, if you say, no, I don't believe that the Bible is true, I won't believe that the Bible is true, that has no place for me in my thinking. Well, then that's you. But here's a tree that's gone through several million years of geological strata. How in the world did that do that? Did it just stay in an upright position for millions of years while the stuff just built around it, and then it didn't petrify, of course, until it got completely buried, solidified, because, So here's a tree that just kind of stayed standing up. Well, let's go on. Here's Spirit Lake. Mount St. Helens had a big blow-off, right? 1980. Washed Spirit Lake up in the mountains. Took the forest with it. Just, boom! Took this whole forest, washed up in the mountains. These trees came rolling back down, debarked them, by the way, sent that to the bottom of Spirit Lake. That set up a whole complete coal layer seam, just waiting to be made. All it needs is a little bit of pressure. Boom, you got a coal layer. Just that fast. Happened in about 3.5 hours. Okay? Took about a day. Anyway, trees sinking in an upright position in Spirit Lake following Mount St. Helens eruption. It's the only place we've ever seen this take place before. We've never seen a tree stand up for millions of years, have we? But we do see real-life, real-time examples of how this could have happened. This is the only observation we have ever had as to how this possibly could have happened. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way it could have happened. I'm just saying this is the only observational method that we have ever seen take place. It's the only thing that we have observed that could possibly account for it. Go ahead. This canyon right here, Engineers Canyon, this is the canyon made when Spirit Lake was washed up in there and carried all kinds of mud and debris and blew up in there, and then the water came rolling down as it does, created a canyon, pretty good sized canyon, about 120 foot high, complete with, what do you see there? It's kind of a blurry photo, sorry. What do you see there though? Layers. Geographic layers. Again, about 3.5 hours. This is a canyon complete with river at the bottom, the whole shot, whole kit and caboodle. This is the only, there's another one over in South America, I believe. This and that other canyon are the only canyons that we have ever seen actually being formed. And guess what? It didn't take millions of years. Like I said, this is a miniature Grand Canyon. You got the river at the bottom, the whole thing. If some geologist would have come up here, looked at that, never saw it before, didn't know its history, what would they immediately assume? This little river at the bottom carved the whole thing out, right? Isn't that what they would assume? Except we saw it happen. We know exactly what happened. Mount St. Helen blew, washed the lake up, formed these layers, and there you have it. If there's any animals in there, they will fossilize. They will fossilize. All we got to do is dig through and give it about 100 years or so. They'll be fossilized already in about 100 years. It does not take long to fossilize. We found fossilized hats, hammers fossilized in rock. There was a bell found in a coal seam, by the way, so we know that coal doesn't have to be millions of years old, because they found a bell in coal. Bells don't just happen naturally, by the way. It has evidence of design. Okay? So anyways, that's what the deal is with that. Go on. Oh, I went too quick. Back up. So anyways, the only observable evidence that we have seen in canyon formation has been rapid. The one in South America took 3 days. It was a tremendous amount of rain that washed out this gorge. It was like a ditch, and it was flowing down this ditch at such a rate it started gorging it out because of this tremendous amount of water. Now imagine what a global flood could do. You think it could do a Grand Canyon? Possibly. Maybe. Allow the possibility, check into the facts, and you know what? Pretty soon you become convinced that, yeah, that's a real possibility. That's a real possibility.
What's your input on where a lot of the came from?
Subterranean waters and possibly a water canopy around the earth.
So like in the atmosphere, so like when the water came down, like also the shortening of the years, like people waiting for thousands of years to appear because of sunlight?
Very possible, yes. As a matter of fact, not just from biblical evidence, Josephus, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the historian Josephus. He was a historian for the Roman army, and he wrote that, can't remember the time frame he gave, but thousands of years earlier there used to be an ice canopy around the world. That is gone. And he put that in. It's interesting that he put that in, because the water talks about the waters above the earth and under the earth. But anyways, I believe there were subterranean waters and waters around the earth, possibly an ice canopy, and that all came crashing down at the flood. That is my belief. I get that from the Bible. I just take the Bible literally. Like I said, I'm not real brilliant. Actually, sometimes I'm pretty stupid. I'm just honest. But I do know truth when I hear it. I'm a simple guy. If something says, you know, if the Bible says something, I just believe it. Because I believe it by faith. I don't believe it because Mount St. Helens washed this canyon out. That's not why I believe the Bible. It just so happens that my faith fits the facts. If it didn't fit the facts, I would question my faith. I would. Because I don't know how I could believe something that I knew was false. And you can't do that. But people do it all the time. Because they want to. They don't want to change their belief. And that's a problem. You have to be open to admitting that you're not smart. You have to be open to admitting that you don't have all the answers and that you need guidance. Once we can do that, once we can say, I don't have all the answers, well, even the professors would say that, but I mean really in a personal level, admit that we've goofed up, that we don't have it all together, then we can start taking instructions from God. let's hold the questions till later. I'll get going. Okay, now, go on to the, I certainly do not want to offend anybody. That is not my intent. I'm just pointing these things out because it's fact. It's reality, okay? And if we can't handle reality, I'm sorry. You know, but this is reality. Errors in the Quran. Go ahead. This is, okay. He, Zul Karnayn, followed until he reached the setting of the sun. He found it set in a spring of murky water. Surah 18, 85, and 86. Okay, that's what the Quran says. It's not scientifically accurate, is it? Okay, and again, I'm not trying to put down anybody. I'm not, you know, I don't want to offend anybody. This is just reality. This is just a quote. I'm just quoting the Quran. Okay, go ahead. It is not for sun to overtake the moon, nor doth the night outstrip the day. They float each in an orbit. Surah 36, 40. Now, I will say this. If this were written in a song, I would give it poetic license. If that were written in a song, they float each in an orbit or something like, you know, that's phenomenological language. That's the way we observe it. If it were in a song or poetry of some sort, I'd say,